what a foreign key is, which is pretty well defined in this Wikipedia article, is a field or collection of fields in one table that uniquely identifies a row of another table or the same table. In simpler words, the foreign key is defined in a second table, but it refers to the primary key or unique key in the first table. So basically you got a bunch of children tables and you want to identify what the parent is. So we basically have that idea of what a foreign key is. So how do we use that? What's the benefit of having a foreign key? Let's say that we've got two tables that are identified by the user name or user identification, user ID, in this column of this table called logins. Since this is used in other tables, there's a relation in other tables, such as tasks. So we bounce back to tasks here, which won't make very much sense until I identify what's going on. But we can see we have a main login rec ID. So what does that mean? That means if we go into our main login, where did it go? Okay. We're going to use this rec ID that's on the logins table. So if, say, the user gets married or has another reason to change their name, this record and this field will be the only thing that needs to get changed. And everything else that says, hey, this user, as identified by user ID and thusly by this rec ID, means you can go and find the rec ID of the login and then substitute their name in wherever it needs to be. That way you don't have to have one update on the login table and then a whole slew of updates in the other parts of the database. And if it's a large database with a lot of tables and it may not be obvious what it is, then you can run into all kinds of problems with programmers forgetting a table and having that column being updated, or other problems. So basically, the other problems being throughput and trouble on the database by having so many records to update since it's associated to that user ID. So we use this rec ID, which every table has. So if we go back to logins, every table has that rec ID, and that means, hey, walk back up to the parent whose rec ID is this, and then use that ID from there, and it means you only need to update one record instead of a whole bunch of records and a whole bunch of tables. So here we see that we've got the build request application up and running on Progress's web speed. What we're going to do is slip into the dictionary for that. And we've got, an app user web ID. That's the same thing as the rec ID. So you can see it's unique, and for the user, it'd be the login and password is unique. But a real useful identification of what's going on is a ticket. So here we've got the ticket web ID, which is unique, primary, and active. This will act as our foreign key. So anytime we see something, for example, there may be multiple scripts, we have an entry for each script that would be associated with that ticket ID, and we just connect it by the ticket web ID. So you can see it's active, but it's not unique because there are multiple scripts to a given ticket. And why do we have a ticket web ID instead of just using the ticket name? Well, as we explained in the MySQL, the ticket name might change. So for example, it may have a different identification number or a different textual description of what the ticket name is. So all we need to do is change that entry here on the ticket name, but inside the database it's known by that ticket web ID, which is a unique string of random characters that are used throughout the other tables. So this script table has an entry or set of entries to that ticket web ID. Any run programs have an entry to that ticket ID. There may be multiple programs. Here we go with options, which is data. There may be multiple options associated with that ticket. So there we use the ticket web ID. So you can see that we're using ticket web ID all over the place, but still allowing the ticket name to be updatable in one location only. So hopefully you found this little video useful in implementing foreign keys. Foreign keys happens at an application level, not a database level. Hence why I explained it in both MySQL and in Progress databases. Two totally different technologies, but the same concept is put into both of them. If you ever need any help with developing your application, you can contact me, Scott Auger, at Omnis Information Works Incorporated. I've got my information down at the bottom.